Hello, friends. This is Mrs. Barniscus, and this is take 3. You will notice that I am less cheerful and less cheerful.
When the war first started, out of the first 20 that were killed, 17 were traitors. It's not like we just went out there randomly and started killing white people. We killed those traitors first, the ones that have been cheating us all those years. That's who died first. And then I got out of it, like war does. Men lose their minds in war and do things they shouldn't.
The Dakota people in Minnesota were starving 150 years ago. The annual payments of food and gold were delayed with the Civil War raging down south. As white settlers poured in, a group of young warriors turned to their reluctant chief, Little Crow, to lead them in a battle they hoped would win back the land they'd called home for generations.
Little Crow told him that we're going to lose everything. He'd seen the might of the military when he was in Washington, so he knew what was going to happen. One of the young warriors said, "Oh, you're a coward." And he said, "No, I'll fight with you and die with you, but we're going to lose everything." A lot of people died on both sides, but the women and children were marched from Morton, Minnesota, all the way up through these little towns, and a lot of them died on the way here. A lot of horrible things happened to them on their way.
White immigrant farmers had flooded into the 4-year-old state of Minnesota from Germany, Scandinavia, Scotland, and other lands, hoping to forge better lives for their families. Many were friends with the Dakota and were caught completely off guard and unarmed when war erupted in 1862. Now 150 years later, descendants such as Mary McConnell search for answers.
The men were making hay in the valley near where Morton now stands. The Indians hitched up our team and put Mother, my little sister, a baby of 5 weeks, and myself into the wagon. Father came hurrying up from the field to get Grandmother McConnell out of the house, but she had escaped and was hiding a short distance from the house. Father had motioned for us to start on, hoping he could find her and catch us. Just before we went around a turn in the road, we saw an Indian shoot him.
A lot of them were shot. Their babies were taken from their hands and killed, and just a lot of horrible, horrible things.
Mother said that she saw the Indians holding consultations many times and believed that they would have shot her if it wasn't for friendly Indians for whom she had fed on many previous occasions.
They still don't want to honor the treaties. I mean, you look in the Constitution, and treaties are the supreme law of the land, but they've never honored any of them with us.
I'm really sad about what happened to my ancestors. I think it's a tragic story all the way along.
If they were heading to the Fort Road, they had to come across this field.
Their bones are probably out there.
If they were escaping, they could be buried in this field,
In this area, up near the coulee there.
But where do you think they were heading? They were friends.
It's just incredible that that peaceful little creek was the scene of such violence.
Ignorance is racism. They told us that we were devil worshippers. Well, the devil didn't come over until Christopher Columbus landed.
He was number 287 of the prisoners that were sent to prison. He was a young man with a family in Hu Shasha's band. I've read the account, the trial, and it says, "Were you at New Ulm?" He says, "No, I wasn't there." "Were you at Birch Coulee?" "No, I wasn't there, I was sick." And there were like 4 questions. After that, he just said, "No, I wasn't there, I didn't fire at the white men." 4 denials, and then the last line was, "I fired 1 shot." And then in really beautiful, ornate script, it said, "Muzza Didi has been found guilty and is sentenced to be hanged by the neck until he is dead." as I looked over that beautiful script and that beautiful piece of paper, and I felt so sick because here he had denied, and then the I fired one shot came from nowhere. And I read that and I cried.
What had really happened is we were trying to cleanse our lands again because treaties were signed that gave away all our lands here, and they weren't honored. Our people were starving, and they decided that they would take back our land.
Humans do this to each other over and over again. In fact, the Dakota were pushed off their lands by the Chippewa, and they were starving when that happened. And it's, you know, it's a story that continues to today. Look what happened in Bosnia.
All right, so go to your worksheet and complete, I believe, what is assignment number 2, the 5-point summary. 5 things you remember most from the video. There should be a period right there. Let's just add that. Okay. 5 things you remember most. Let's move on to assignment number 3 and 4. They're very similar. It's critical art analysis. There are 2 images you're going to look at, and you will fill out each chart on your sheet for each image. So each image has 1 chart. In the first box, I simply want you to write down what you notice the most, what are concrete objects that stand out to you. In the upper right-hand box, what does it remind you of? Where have you seen images like this before? Museums, books, movies. In the lower left-hand box, how does it make you feel, or what's the overall mood or feeling of the image? And then in the lower right-hand box, what do you think this image is depicting? What's going on? Here's the first image, and this is assignment number 3. It's called Attack on New Ulm during the Sioux outbreak. It's by a man named Anton Gog. Sounds French, but I do not know. Pause the video if you need more time to look at the image. We'll move on to assignment number 4. You're going to do the same thing in the second box with this image by Dwayne Wilcox. Much more recent, 2012. I came across this image at the All My Relations Gallery. It is actually hanging in my classroom, and it's larger than this, but this is the main focus. The crow is to die for. Again, pause the video, fill in the 4-square critical art analysis. If you need more time, pause it. Assignment number 5 is called Keyword Notes, which I'm sure you've done in 10th grade, and I think we've done in this class. You are going to be reading an article from the Star Tribune, and I've divided it up into 4 sections. After each section, you will write down the 3 things you remember most. Pause the video so you can read it. Here's section number 1. It was titled Let Them Eat Grass, and actually it was from the Minnesota Public Radio. This is part 1. Pause the video so you can read this article, and then fill in the upper left-hand square with the 3 things you remember most. Here's section 2. Pause the video, read it, fill in the upper right-hand square with the 3 things you remember most. Part 3. Pause, read, write. Part 4. Pause, read, write. Assignment number 6, you're getting near the end. The cause and the effect. Now you've read the PBS article, you viewed the photo story, you looked at several pieces of art, and outlined some initial causes and effects of the 1862 Dakota conflict. Identify 3 causes and identify 3 effects. Write these down. Pause this video so you have time to do that. And finally, assignment number 7, thesis practice. What caused the Dakota to rise up in the 1862 conflict? Remember, a good thesis is a roadmap. In other words, it tells the readers what to expect from the rest of the paper. It offers a way to more clearly understand a specific aspect of a topic, a how or a why or a what. It's not a yes or no type of sentence. It makes a claim that others will dispute or may dispute. This is a very controversial topic. To call the internment camp at Fort Snelling a concentration camp is very controversial for some people. And your thesis should be fairly specific. Start with the topic, the Dakota conflict of 1862. Have an active verb, created, provoked, resulted in, caused. That's caused is not the greatest verb, but it works. Have an object and an explanatory phrase. The Dakota conflict of 1862 provoked both white settlers and Dakota Indians to reevaluate the relationship of humans to their land. That's not a very good thesis, but you get the point. So make a thesis that answers the question, what caused the Dakota to rise up in the 1862 conflict? Once you've done that, you've completed all the assignments for this lecture. I will be collecting these on Friday before the end of the day. Thanks and have a super day. Bye-bye.